The Spitfire is the most famous fighter aircraft in history. It appears on postage stamps, memorial coins, museum posters, and the covers of books about the Second World War. It is remembered as the aircraft that saved Britain. Almost everyone knows that story, and almost everyone gets part of it wrong. The Hawker Hurricane shot down more German aircraft during the Battle of Britain than every other British defense combined. More than the Spitfire, more than anti-aircraft guns, more than barrage balloons, coastal batteries, and every other fighter type in the Royal Air Force put together. 60% of all Luftwaffe losses during the battle were inflicted by Hurricanes. 32 squadrons flew them. 19 flew Spitfires. The Hurricane outnumbered its glamorous partner by roughly 2-1. It carried the burden of the entire campaign on a fuselage partly made of Irish linen stretched over a frame of steel tubes and wooden stringers, a construction method that looked old-fashioned but proved remarkably effective. The man who designed it left school at 14. He had no university degree, no formal engineering qualification, and no inherited wealth to support him. He was the eldest of 12 children born to a carpenter in a terrace house in Windsor. His name was Sydney Camm, and the aircraft he created with methods that other designers had already abandoned became the machine that kept Britain alive long enough for everything else to matter. Camm was born on August 5, 1893, at 10 Elmer Road in Windsor, Berkshire. His father, Frederick Camm, worked as a carpenter and joiner. The house was small. The family was large, 12 children. No surplus of anything except closeness and determination. Camm attended the Royal Free School in Windsor until 1906, when he was awarded a foundation scholarship. 2 years later, at 14, he left school and became an apprentice carpenter. His formal education was over. His practical education was just beginning. Camm discovered aeronautics not in a classroom or through a professor, but through curiosity that turned into obsession. He and his brothers began building model aircraft by hand and selling them, first through a shop on Eton High Street and then directly to boys at Eton College, delivering the models in secret so the shopkeeper and the school authorities would not notice. A carpenter's son, smuggling toy airplanes to the sons of the aristocracy. The economics of aviation were already revealing themselves to him. By early 1912, Camm had become a founding member of the Windsor Model Aeroplane Club. That same year, at 18, he and other club members built a glider and launched it from Home Park in Windsor. Camm flew it himself. The glider crashed and he was thrown into the iron railings around Frogmore House. He survived, and the accident taught him something important about risk, structure, and the thin line between success and disaster. Before long, Camm moved from hobbyist experiments into serious design work. He learned how aircraft behaved, how materials failed, and how to make practical compromises without weakening the machine. That habit defined his career. In the years that followed, he worked on increasingly serious aircraft and developed a reputation for reliability rather than glamour. By 1923, Hawker brought him in as chief designer to develop the Cygnet, a small light aircraft. He did the job and then kept going. As his influence grew, he began shaping fighters that would define an era. Hawker was never the most celebrated name in aviation, but Camm made it matter. He cared less about beauty for its own sake than about aircraft that could be built in quantity, repaired quickly, and flown by ordinary pilots under extraordinary pressure. That philosophy became visible in the Hurricane. The fighter was sturdy, predictable, and easy to maintain. It could absorb punishment and return to the fight. It was not created to impress spectators. It was created to win air battles in the real world, where factories, mechanics, fuel, pilot training, and repair time all mattered. Camm understood that a fighter is not judged only by speed or elegance on paper. It must also be producible, serviceable, and forgiving. The Hurricane embodied that idea. Its structure mixed traditional and modern methods because Camm cared about results more than theoretical purity. When war came, that approach proved its value. The Hurricane entered service in time to face the Luftwaffe, and it did the work that kept Fighter Command alive through the hardest weeks of 1940. It intercepted bombers, engaged fighters, absorbed damage, and returned to the air again and again. If the Spitfire became the face of resistance, the Hurricane became its backbone. The Spitfire was faster and more graceful, and Reginald Mitchell's design was a masterpiece of aerodynamic engineering. It deserved the praise it received. But wars are not decided by praise. They are decided by numbers, readiness, repair speed, and the ability to put more aircraft into the sky on Tuesday morning than the enemy destroyed on Monday afternoon. By those measures, the hurricane was decisive. That is why Sydney Camm mattered so much. He understood that the best aircraft is not always the most advanced or the fastest. It is the one that is ready to be built quickly, ready to be repaired quickly, and ready to be flown by pilots who had only weeks to learn it. The Hurricane was ready when very little else was. In 1941, the News Chronicle ran the headline, "This man saved Britain." The Minister of Economic Warfare, Lord Selborne, told Winston Churchill that Britain owed Camm a great deal. Tommy Sopwith, who had hired him and backed the commercial gamble behind the Hurricane, called him the greatest designer of fighter aircraft the world had ever known. A full-size replica of a Hawker Hurricane now stands near the River Thames in Windsor, not far from the terrace house where Camm was born. The town that produced a boy who left school at 14 to become a carpenter's apprentice now honors the man who designed the machine that helped stop an invasion. The aircraft was not glamorous. It was not revolutionary in the way legends often like to be. It was built from steel tubes and linen, and from a stubborn refusal to confuse sophistication with strength. It was built by a man whose credentials were written in the work itself. And when the Luftwaffe came, when bombers darkened the sky over southern England, and the fate of the war depended on whether Fighter Command could survive one more day, it was the unfashionable, unspectacular Hawker Hurricane that climbed to meet them. And it was enough.